Welcome to Random Encounter, the RPG fan podcast. I'm your host, Robert Steinman. We only have 3 people with us today, so we got a short crew. Steven could not make it to a smoking bar to take part in the festivities. So today we have the man of many titles.
This is John McCarroll. What's my title today? Let's go with Associate Pictures Editor.
You know, I got you beat, though, now, because on the website, I am Grand Podcast Wizard.
Dude, I used to have goofy title up there. I'm so professional happy. Now. I'm professional now. I am Keeper X on our forums.
Okay, and we have the newsman.
Zach Pintchik, super flat on the forums.
And what is your title, sir?
Like contributing editor of some sort.
Yeah, that reminds me. When do we get upgraded? Like, when do we ding, John?
There's a thread on a forum that you can't see.
About when we ding?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I love this behind-the-scenes conspiracies. So today we, of course, have Fallout New Vegas to talk about. That's the big release, the Your Mileage May Vary game of the year, apparently. So John obviously gave us a review of that, so we're going to talk about it. I'm hoping to do a PC review. We'll see how that turns out. And Zach has another game to talk about, which I completely slipped my mind right now. And we're also going to have a short little discussion on pen and paper RPG translation into video games, followed by a news section. Who knew? Diablo 3, no release date. Awesome. So, John, tell us about your trip through the Mojave Wasteland.
Okay, so if you didn't read my review, first off, go read my review. Second, I grew up in Las Vegas. I lived there for 25 years. So
I'm sorry.
No, dude, I loved growing up in Las Vegas. There's no other city in the world where you can go out at 3:30 in the morning.
Keep it family friendly.
I don't need you to tell me that. Go out at 3:30 in the morning, get, I don't know, a ham sandwich at a restaurant, and then go to a grocery store at 4 a.m. and play the slots.
Okay, that does sound pretty excellent.
New York City's pretty great, but slot machines are something that we don't have a whole lot of.
All right, so with that in mind, tell us about New Vegas, my friend.
So New Vegas is Fallout. I don't even want to call it Fallout 3.5. I want to call it Fallout 3.25 because it is Fallout 3 in just a completely different environment. To be fair, compared to Fallout 3, it excels in creating an environment perfectly. On the minus side, I really don't like any of the individual characters in the game. I liked a lot of the individual characters in Fallout 3.
That's something I can totally attest to. I'm playing it right now, and I'm about 10 hours in, and I've met tons and tons of people, and I've gone to tons and tons of places, and outside of the Las Vegas Strip, nothing really jumps out at me as being memorable. I'm still having fun, but nothing is as memorable as when you came upon the Pentagon, covered with Brotherhood of Steel members, or seeing the bombed out wreckage of the White House, so.
See, and for me, some of the environments in the game that people would be like, oh, this is something that's funny. Most specifically, the Repcon factory in the game, that's connected deeply to me on things that I remember as a child. For those who don't know, there was a factory that made ammonium perchlorate, I want to say, something that was used in rocket fuel.
Whoa.
And it exploded, and it caused $100 million worth of damage. And I was in preschool at the time, and they trapped us indoors because nobody knew what was going down.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
that's so cool though that they put that into the game. See, I didn't know that. I grew up in the Philly area, so I went to DC very often, so that resonated with me, being on the Capitol Mall. But I've never been to Las Vegas.
So, and there are when you go to Prim at the very beginning of the game, most people, first off, the Prim in the game is nothing like Prim in real life. There's 2 casinos and a mall there. Though, to be fair, the things like Bison Steve's is a comparison to a real casino. There's Buffalo Bill's. And then there is a casino that has a roller coaster that goes through it in Prim. And, but there's no, there's nothing aside from that there. There's no residences or anything like that.
So now, I want to keep you talking on this, John, because I don't want to take up all the mic. But I totally agree with your assessment that it really is an expansion pack to Fallout 3, and I'm happy about that. In that, I loved Fallout 3. I love exploring the wasteland, and I will say that the iron sights mechanic and things that they've added, things that Obsidian added to the game, really made the game better. At least on PC, I feel much more comfortable using the iron sights. It feels much more like a shooter at times, and I think you mentioned in your review that you didn't feel that way in the console version.
No, on the Xbox 360, the iron sights are the most useless things in the world.
And it feels fine on PC. It feels great.
See, here's the thing. Like, I played a lot of Call of Duty on Xbox, so I'm used to the whole... No. I played it on Xbox, so I'm used to the whole iron sights thing with a controller. But when you play Fallout New Vegas on the 360, everything feels just really, really sluggish when you're using the iron sights. And I like some of the weapons, when you would use the actual iron sights, if you didn't have a scope or whatever installed, it was impossible to see anything. Like, your sight blocked out everything except for this tiny, hole in the middle of the screen. I had no idea what I was shooting at half the time.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that way with the 9mm pistol really gave me a feeling back to Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Like, looking down your main pistol, it felt exactly like that. And then, but like the 10mm pistol, it feels a little awkward. So I definitely see where you're coming from there. But I do think that for shooter fans, you're still going to use VATS primarily. But the shooting mechanics are definitely improved over Fallout 3. I thought Fallout 3's shooting mechanics, particularly on PS3, where I played the game mostly, were horrible. And then when I made the switch over to PC, it felt much more natural. It feels like they tuned it right to the mouse and keyboard setup.
And here's the thing. I would agree with that completely. I played Fallout 3 on PC. They sent the reviewable they sent us was for Xbox 360, so I really had no choice. But I really did feel like the shooting was much more smooth on the PC compared to playing it with a controller.
Yeah. Now my big complaint, and I've said it a lot on the boards, and I'm going to repeat myself a little bit here, so I'm sorry if this sounds like a total me complaining session. My biggest complaint with the game was that Fallout New Vegas was, at least for the first 2 days of release, practically unplayable on PC. I played it through Steam, and this was like the first time Steam ever kicked me in the nuts. The game wasn't saving, which is like, okay, that's kind of a big problem. The game wasn't saving properly. I fell through the earth a number of times playing the game, had complete glitches. All the white scorpions were always in the ground. They have the NPC glitch right now where people... if you have an NPC on screen, if you can see their face, the game literally chugs down to like 5 frames per second. There's a fix online, Google it, where you basically make the game, you force it to run in DX9 mode. It works 100%. I just did it before the start of the podcast, and that made a huge difference. But then they released a patch 2 days after release. It was a 200 megabyte patch. And they're like, we fixed over 200 bugs. And I'm like, on the one hand, I'm really glad that you guys released this patch so soon. That's awesome. On the other hand, you knowingly released a buggy product. And now imagine from a consumer standpoint, that really pisses me off. It really pisses me off that, and I feel for Obsidian, and I'm not going to blame Obsidian. We all know that they release buggy games, but they're at least trying to fix this game up. But I'm very frustrated at the fact that they were basically given a hard date. This is the day you're going to release the game, whatever shape it's in. And this is the game that we got. And it was unplayable for the first 48 hours of release. It was unplayable on Steam. I'm sorry. I consider a problem where the game is not saving properly to be unplayable.
No, I hear you. And to be fair, first off, I want to be clear. A lot of people told me my review was really negative. Yes, I talk about the bugs because the bugs are there. I really like Fallout New Vegas. I might say a lot of bad things about it because it's a very flawed game, but I like the game a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't play the PC version. I didn't have bugs that were in the core engine of the game that made it unplayable. But when I'm going up against the final boss in the game, and my character was not built for combat at all. He had like 70 in guns, and everything else was speech, repair, science, da-da-da-da-da. And so my only way to beat this boss was to shoot his weapon and destroy it. And when I went into VATS, I destroyed his weapon. I was like, okay, cool, he's not going to attack me. Well, he didn't attack me because he fell out of combat and became invulnerable.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, I mean, just the number of bugs. I mean, again, I'm loving the game too, and I want to review the game for PC. That's what the job I've been given to do for the site. But in its current state, first off, I'm not far enough in. I'm only like 10 or 11 hours in. I haven't completed the game, but I almost don't feel proper in giving it a review right now because and I'm not saying that as a criticism of you, John, because you wanted to get the review out in time and you mentioned the bugs, but I don't feel comfortable giving that game a review right now, especially on PC, until we see where the product is. So my review may be a month away when they release a couple more patches, and I think it might be a good comparison with John's review, even though it's on the 360. It might be a good comparison for where is this game a month or two down the line compared to where it is now.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I hear you there.
And I mean, the only real complaint that I have outside of the bugginess, and as I said before the show, this is the buggiest game I've ever played for retail release. This is as buggy as it gets for me.
I don't want to cut you off because I want you to continue your point in what you really hate. But you look at some of the games that Troika made. And actually, we're going to talk about a Troika game later because Zach's talking about Temple of Elemental Evil. But I played Arcanum without a patch, and I played Vampire Bloodlines without a patch.
Yee. Okay, yeah. That's fair. And, Bloodlines had no excuse for that because that game was basically finished for a year, and they had to hold off on it until
because of the Half-Life 2.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get there. But my biggest complaint gameplay-wise for New Vegas, and some people don't seem to be having this problem, but I know I really did. When I played Fallout 3, as soon as I got out of the vault, and you could follow your father, I just said, screw it. I'm going to walk that way. And I just kind of walked the earth. I just, made like Caine and Kung Fu, just walked the earth and just did my thing. And I found the game to have a nice difficulty curve that way. When I played the game for PC and I was trying to get to the new content really quick, I immediately ran to where the game was telling me to go, which was, DC. That's really where the game forces you to go right away. And you're fighting super mutants when you're like level 3. And, I really struggled. And I was sitting there going, wow, that's, really interesting that the main quest of the game, if you follow that right away, the game kind of kicks your butt a little bit. Fallout New Vegas is the exact opposite, where the game kind of wants you to follow the main path at the start of the game, or at least follow the roads, which I like from a gameplay perspective, but from a following Fallout 3, where I could just walk wherever I wanted to and go out and have an adventure. You walk off the beaten path in New Vegas, they're starting you literally right next to a nest of oh God, I forgot the name. The lizardy things.
Deathclaws?
Deathclaws, thank you. I completely mind blanked. They literally start you right next to an area that's swarming with Deathclaws. I ran into 3 or 4 giant rad scorpions when I was level 2, and I couldn't do any damage to them. I've already run into a super mutant masker. At another point, I went off the road and just walked over a hill, like literally about 30 yards, and there was a glowing one and a bunch of feral ghoul roamers, and I couldn't stand up to those. Like, the game is hard, and I respect that because, the wasteland should be a dangerous environment. But just this, like, the second you go off the road, the game has these giant bumps for you there. It really started to tick me off, and it really felt like the game was much more linear than Fallout 3. Now, I'm around a level 11 right now, and I finally have a support character with me who is just like, he's doing way more damage in combat than I can. He's using a sniper rifle, and he's just killing everything. And it just kind of felt like until I reached that point, the game was very much on one track. And I wanted to see what your perspective was on that, John.
See, I agree with some of your points. The game is really, really unbalanced when it comes to difficulty. If you go off of the road in the very beginning of Fallout New Vegas, before you even get, like, I want to say even before you hit level 20, you really just can't go anywhere you want. You can't walk across the desert. It's really unbalanced. There was also a point when I beat the game the first time, I was level 18, and there were quests that I was given, like side quests, that I could literally not complete because I would walk into the area and get destroyed.
Right. Same thing was happening to me, and it really started to frustrate me. Like, I was just sitting there like, the best thing about Oblivion and the best thing about Fallout 3 was you just went off and had an adventure, and I loved that stuff, and it just kind of feels like there's a real lack of balance in this game.
One thing that I will say that looking back on it, I wish I'd mentioned this in my review, damage threshold is retarded.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. So can you explain it to me real quick?
Okay, so in Fallout 3, there was damage resistance, which it still exists in Fallout New Vegas, which cut the damage that you took by a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And in the new game, there's damage threshold, where it will say you have a damage threshold of 15. You get shot by a bullet that does 9 damage. That bullet does 1 damage to you because it did not beat the damage threshold.
That's okay. So it's exactly like it. Again, we're playing right into the pen and paper discussion. It's just exactly like the original Masquerade rules. It's exactly the same, like where you had to do over a set amount of damage to actually do damage.
Yeah, and it's really, really frustrating, especially with the way that I had my character set up, where I didn't have points in energy weapons, I didn't have points in unarmed, where all of my damage was essentially I had an assault rifle and I had my 9mm pistol. And going up against super mutants, like, okay, I can use this incinerator that I've got, but I'm going to do just the same amount of damage as if I shoot them with bullets.
Yeah, it's frustrating to me too. Like when I ran into a super mutant master, I just ran backwards for like a quarter of a mile, shooting him in the face, and I couldn't do any damage. And eventually, I was just like, okay, I quit. I'm just gonna let him kill me and reload because this is ridiculous. I've literally shot him with like 50,000 laser rifle rounds, which is admittedly not a strong weapon, but I do think that the damage threshold its purpose was to put right the balance in Fallout 3. Like very soon after Fallout 3, if you get the power armor and you get like the one special plasma rifle, you're set for the whole game. Nothing's going to touch you. But then New Vegas is like, well, we're going to have to deal with that. That's another question I have because I'm not far enough, and maybe this is spoilers, so maybe you shouldn't tune in. Can you get power armor in the game?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. Okay. That's all I needed. I'm just interested because it does feel like it feels like my armor is always really getting damaged quickly. I've always been a repair, guns, and science lockpick, so kind of like a roguish character. And then as the game goes on, I always start just pouring points into energy weapons when those start becoming readily available. But like it always just feels like my armor is never powerful enough, so I really want to get a hold of some power armor.
Yeah, once you talk to the Brotherhood of Steel, the Brotherhood of Steel is in the game. They're there. It's not a spoiler. They're a faction in every Fallout game. There was even a Fallout game called what was the Xbox one called?
Wasn't that Brotherhood of Steel?
I'm pretty sure just Brotherhood of Steel.
Yeah. Okay, they're in there. They're there. You have to find them, but they are in the Mojave Desert. They're there. You have to do a lot of questing with them, but they're there. That's actually the quest chain that I was saying I couldn't do at level 18. I was able to do it at level 20, but there is power armor in the game. It's heavy just like it is in the first game. You can only carry like 4 sets with all your other equipment. I actually never – it's there in the game. I never learned how to use it. I don't know what quest that is. I know where the Brotherhood of Steel is. I think I actually cut myself off from doing it with the way that I made some of my choices. But it's there. One thing I recommend doing for if you find the game to be difficult, once you pick up Cass, which you may not ever do, and if you don't want to do this, go to the Silver Rush in Freeside.
Oh, okay.
And just clear out the place, like shoot them all, and there are like the best energy weapons in the game there.
Nice. No, I do love the freedom in the game, and I love the fact that you can, I wiped the powder gangers like off the face of the earth. I thought about doing their quest chain, and I just got really annoyed with it, and I just rolled in there and just annihilated everybody. And I love that about Fallout. Like, you know what? There's two final points I want to make on Fallout New Vegas. First is just one more slight gameplay gripe. there's tons and tons of locations in this game. It definitely feels more dense than the Capital Wasteland in Fallout 3, but there's more environments that like you just kind of walk into, and there was some bottle caps and nothing else important.
No, so, it seems like there's a lot of empty stuff in the game.
Yeah, and more so, and that was one of my big criticisms about Fallout 3. It felt like you would get to the bottom of a dungeon and you got ammo. And in Oblivion, there was always something important at the bottom of a dungeon. At least I felt like it. And in Fallout New Vegas, it feels like they've actually just upped the quotient of putting random crap in the game.
Yeah, and to be fair, once you get the Explorer perk or whatever it's called.
The level 20 perk that lets you see where all the locations are.
Yeah, a lot of locations are really close together.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things where it's just like, oh, there's nothing here. To be completely fair, however, there had been a location that I found. I was like, this is retarded. There's nothing here. There's a pile of ash and a dead Brahmin. And then today, I was actually just doing some more of the side quests. No, that place was something. And I only found out because I was doing this quest.
Okay. Yeah, it seems there's a lot more quests in the game. That was another complaint about Fallout 3 was that there weren't a lot of side quests. Like, there were only maybe 20 or so. There's a ton in New Vegas. Like, just going to the Fallout wiki and looking at the number of side quests, I was really happy to see it was more like Oblivion, where there's a lot of side quests. Now, that means that these side quests don't stand out as much as, like, the Republic of Dave from Fallout 3, which I loved. But at least there's more to do. And the big reason I love Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 in general, they're filling a niche of a type of game that I really wanted. This is going to sound really awkward, so let me finish the thought. I really wanted Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater to be like this. When they announced Snake Eater, and they were like, you're going to be in the jungle, and it's very nonlinear, and you can go wherever you want, and maybe you'll, like, find a base, or maybe you'll find, like, a security depot, and you can go in and get equipment. And there was this real sense that Snake Eater was going to be about, scavenging and really, survival. And then it came out, and it's still a great game. I still love it. But it's extremely linear. The jungles are basically rooms, and you're just kind of going around. There's very little getting off the beaten path. Fallout, the Oblivion-style game is you're doing exactly what Hideo Kojima was promising, where you are surviving. You come over a hill and you see something down there like, a power station, and you don't know what you're walking into down there. And you get that little anticipation, and then you go down there and, you might have the Garys, Oh, God.
No, I am not joking, but I was going whenever you finished what you were going to say, I was just going to say, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's freaky, and I just did a quest in Fallout. I just went to 2 of the vaults, Vault 11 and Vault 22, and I don't want to give away what their gimmicks are. One is very timely for this portion of the year, hint hint, nudge nudge, and the other one is just creepy, and it's just. I love that aspect of the game, the not knowing what you're going to run into. That's what keeps me playing Fallout. It's buggy, it's messy, but what keeps me going is the unknown, and I love that about Fallout.
So does it pay off? Has Obsidian made a game that stands up to the Fallout namesake, and do their changes really hold together despite the bugginess?
John, you go first, and then I'll answer.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Here's the thing. The game is buggy, and I don't like the individual characters. I also don't like the voice acting. The voice acting is pretty horrid in this game.
It's flat. It's very flat.
Also, there are some really weird bugs with it. I remember I was in the Crimson Caravan base, and I was talking to Alex McCafferty, who is the leader of that faction.
Yep.
And she was the only person in the room. And then she said one of the random, like, Mr. House isn't going to be an issue anymore. And it sounded nothing like the actual character's voice.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. So finish up your thought. Is this a worthy successor, John?
Yes, it's a worthy game. It does fantastically. It creates a world that's believable, and it creates a world that's based in reality. It's got good writing. It's got good quests. It makes me actually want to explore. The individual characters, again, aren't very good. The graphics are pretty bad. But, you know what? I like the game. I can't say, you know what, don't play this game. If you didn't like Fallout 3, you're not going to like Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
But If you liked Fallout 3, if you liked Oblivion, if you like Western-styled RPGs, you're going to like it.
Yep. And I'll just throw my 2 cents in. And again, I really do want to write a review maybe in a month or two, just when the game's patched up, because I do think in its current state, especially on PC, it's rough. Guys, if you're having trouble with the NPC glitch, with the frame rate drops, trust the forums. The DX9 thing does work. I know that people really don't want to do that. And you can find that file on your computer as well. There's a really detailed instruction on how to do it on the Bethesda forum. It's a great game. It really is, like John said in his review, it really is a gem just covered in crap. Like it's such a great game. There's great writing. The voice acting is flat. There aren't as memorable characters, but this is a giant effing expansion to Fallout 3. This is a giant expansion pack. If you wanted more content, if you just wanted to explore more Wasteland, this is it. But if you were expecting this to be a huge jump, it's not. And if you have issues with lots and lots of technical problems, I would say hold off right now. But this is a great game. It's going to keep you busy all year. I mean, we've had a lot of games fall back into the first quarter of 2011. This game's going to keep you busy. And there's lots and lots to do. There's lots of factions to work with. Again, I cut off on my entire quest line with the Powder Gangers because I just wiped them off the face of the earth. And I plan on playing an evil character next time so I can work with them. So.
And one thing I want to make note of, actually, talking about wiping out the Powder Gangers, Obsidian does this might be a spoiler. There are multiple endings to the game, but at least the way that I ended it up with the quest line that I chose, you can't play after the ending.
I heard you say that. And didn't Bethesda say they weren't going to make that? And again, it's Obsidian, but didn't Bethesda say they're not going to do that again? That just screams to me that the DLC is just going to be like what it was for Fallout 3.
I'm pretty sure that they've said in interviews, and I could be mistaken, that they're actually not going to go back and change the endings. I believe that all of the endings make it so that you cannot play afterwards, and that they're not going to change that about the game.
Here's the thing. The game makes it really, really, really obvious when you are going to play the final mission.
Yeah.
It's like a big sign that says, you can't go back. Are you sure you want to do this?
At least the game does that.
Yeah. And what's really nice is, actually, the way Fallout 3 handled it was pretty crappy. It was, okay, game over, doesn't really give you any kind of closure with anything. Fallout New Vegas, the way that I'm going to describe the type of ending, not the ending. If you might consider this a spoiler, you might want to fast forward 2 or 3 minutes ahead in this podcast. The game wraps up everything really nicely. It gives you kind of a synopsis of what's happened to everybody.
Well, that's good.
And with Fallout 3, I was really kind of disappointed with the way things ended, but I was not disappointed with Fallout New Vegas' ending, and it actually made me really sad because one of the quests that I didn't finish gave me a sad ending.
Yeah, I think Obsidian's really showing that they are great writers and great role players. It's just the technical aspect is where they struggle,
Yeah.
And it really makes me want to play Alpha Protocol because I know that's like $20 now on PS3, and I'm willing to pay $20 to just experience it.
Again, I didn't write the review for Alpha Protocol. I really, really like Alpha Protocol. It's got its issues, but it's good.
Yeah. All right, I think that's enough Fallout talk. And I mean, Zach's just been, sitting in a corner twiddling his thumbs, so I want to get him in here. So, Zach, tell us what you've been playing.
I have been playing Temple of Elemental Evil, which is a Troika game that was recently released on Good Old Games.
Wait, I thought Troika was dissolved.
Elemental Evil is not a new game.
It's 2003, I think.
Oh, got it. Okay.
It came out a little bit after. I think it came out after Neverwinter Nights, the first one. So it's way back there, And interestingly enough, it does that. It's that isometric D&D based piece, computer RPG. So it's very much like in the vein of Baldur's Gate and Planescape and Icewind Dale and all of those that have been coming out on there. And I know last time we did the podcast, I said I tried to play Icewind Dale, and that's still an old game. Temple of Elemental Evil at least uses the Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 rule set, which I'm a bit more familiar with since I have role played with friends before. I've played some D&D with the pens and the papers. Yeah. But one thing that I'd quickly like to talk about is that when you guys were mentioning how kind of empty Fallout New Vegas seemed to be, I'd seen some screenshots of just like, oh, this is supposed to be a plantation that's full of people and there's like 2 guards, or like this is like a factory that people are supposed to be in. Temple of Elemental Evil does a pretty good job of creating a believable world, and granted, it is stuck at like an isometric, like top-down camera, where you have like these pre-rendered backgrounds and all that throughout the world, but at the same time, like even just in the starting village of Hamlet, you have it's this big village, or at least it seems like that because of the camera angle, and you have like off in the corner there's a construction site, and there are people working on this construction site, and I haven't gotten tremendously far in the game, but it seems like the kind of world that if you were to buy a like a D&D book, like what either like just a campaign setting, it seems like that's the sort of thing that you would get. Very fleshed out. There are characters everywhere. Not all of them say a lot, but there's a lot of voice acted characters, a lot of just really rich world building that Troika has managed to do. And considering their track record with Arcanum and with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, they made that right, I'm pretty sure. It's not very surprising. So that's something that I have enjoyed a lot about the game. But having played D&D, and granted, I'm not, like our group is, I play with a couple of my friends here at college, and we don't play specifically to to adhere to the rules. D&D for us is very much a social experience, and we do enjoy kind of like the like having these big battles that we concoct and stuff, but at the same time, a lot of it is about that role-playing experience, is about right. Like just being able to, like one of the characters I made, I role-played as an illusionist gnome who used his powers to, like to use his spells to, act as like a drug dealer for, like the town that he was from, because, it created, like fanciful images, whatever. There's a certain amount of that in Temple of Elemental Evil. Depending on the party alignment that you choose at the beginning, there's a different opening sequence, and I believe that carries through the ending. I haven't gotten there yet. At the same time, it seems almost like the game was built for people who wanted to play D&D combat, like 3.5 edition combat, with the maximum amount of rules compliance, like not having to go through all of like it, for us, if we had to like take off all of our armor when we wanted to rest to avoid the like the negative bonuses that you get for having armor on while you're sleeping, like this is the sort of game that follows that. I actually kind of tested it out. Sightlines play a big deal. Like there's, unlike the AD&D like 2.5 stuff that you get when you're doing character creation in like Baldur's Gate or in Icewind Dale, you have every I think it's pretty much every skill that you can put points into. So you have like spot, listen, search, survival. There's a lot of skills that like I feel don't translate very well to like a computer RPG environment. And so like one thing that I did was sightlines. There's a door that I was just kind of testing out. Like ran back and forth around this doorway, and you can see the line of sight just shifting, like pivoting around. Like you can only see so far into this dark room, and only like so much at a time. And I feel like perhaps it's just because I'm not like so into playing specifically. We know we don't play with like a what is it, a tactical grid that
me and my buddies, we do. So.
Yeah, I mean, like it may depend on the person, but it really, like that's kind of where it fell short for me, is that like if you look at Dragon Age, for instance. That's kind of the big computer RPG of the past like 3 years, I'd say. It adheres to all of the sort of conversational, like all of the dialogue and just basically plot and world building conventions. I feel like that your standard, like a top down like computer RPG would have, but it doesn't bog itself down with the 3.5, or any sort of D&D rule set. And I'm really interested to play the 4th edition, because I imagine that would translate a lot better to a to a video game setting, because my friends all complain like, oh man, it's basically like playing a video game, and I wouldn't be super opposed to that. But
yeah, I can actually speak to that. Not trying to cut you off, but I can actually speak to that from coming from playing 3. I played 3.0 and just was, all the mess that was Dungeons and Dragons 3.0, and then they kind of fixed it up pretty well with 3.5. But I always got really bogged down in the mechanics of it, and I really got annoyed. Dungeons and Dragons 4.0, it really, I don't want to say it rips off World of Darkness. It doesn't rip off the the vampire style play, but it does make it a little bit more, it keeps the combat flowing, but at the same time it also seems to make the game more about combat, even though it makes it easier to handle. So there really isn't a lot of rules when it comes to the role playing, and that's why when it comes to me, if I'm playing a pen and paper RPG, I totally nerd out and I go to New World of Darkness, because I love the interactions, the role-playing elements, playing a character. Now, I do not get dressed up. I do not go out and LARP. Okay, I'm going to preface that right now. I'm still a single bachelor. I want to get that out there. I don't LARP, but I really enjoy the role-playing aspect. And I think when you're in a combat situation for like a day, one combat, and that was always my biggest complaint when I was playing with my buddies, and you're sitting there and checking the rules and making sure that you get the right pluses to hit, and you make sure
you
that
played with the rules lawyers? That's oh man.
I had a buddy that, and I'm going to call him out right now, Jason. I'm sure he's not listening to this. Jason, if you had applied yourself in high school as much as you applied yourself to learning the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, the dude would have been a freaking Rhodes Scholar. He knew every rule, and then he would not study for class. I used to tell him, this dude, if you studied the amount that you did right now, you would be you would be at Cambridge. Like, he was a rules Nazi. He knew everything. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I think that without significant modification, Dungeons and Dragons and these other style pen and paper role-playing games don't translate well to video games.
I mean, that's kind of the basic gist that I got, is that, like, man, this would be a great game if I really wanted to have like that D&D combat experience, and I really haven't gotten far in the game, partially because I really enjoy character creation, so I just spent like a good 2 hours making a party that I found to my liking. But it's a game that I would really enjoy playing if I really liked combat and I really liked getting every little rule. I play with the Circle of 8 mod pack, which if you are intending to get this game, and it's on GOG, Good Old Games, for $6. And I mean, to support the website or to support Troika, or what's left of Troika, or whoever gets the right, the monetary compensation for that, it's worth buying. If you're gonna play the game, play with the Circle of 8 mod pack, because it fixes a ton of bugs. Like basically, Troika has that same sort of Obsidian style development cycle where they release a game and then it's finished 3 years later by modders.
That's because they're essentially two sides to the same company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like, I love them for that. And Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, I know, Rob, you want to talk about that, is really great now that it's
finished.
Done. It's a completed game. It has very few bugs left. I think that they're even still releasing
Yeah, they still patch the fan community behind that game is insane. Like, I played maybe about a quarter or halfway through it when I got my new gaming laptop. My brother-in-law gave it to me, and I didn't have a chance to finish it, and I'm really upset that I didn't. If you've never played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, you really owe yourself to try to pick it up. Now, granted, when you get the retail version, you're going to have to patch it and go online and find the fan-made patches to get the thing to work properly. But what the game is, it's like a tiny Fallout.
Wait, guys, I have a question. You say that there were a lot of bugs. I thought the game was just making sure that I was really into my experience of playing a Malkavian.
Possibly. I wonder how many people actually got that reference. So, yeah. Not so much. I made the mistake of playing a Nosferatu, and, just exploring the sewers for hours on end got a little tiresome, but I was in that role, damn it. I was a Nosferatu in the sewers, unable to go out on the streets. So hats off to them for making me, hate my existence playing this character in this game, but it was really good. But it's a tiny version of Fallout. It's got tiny little maps, nothing on the grand scale, but the open-endedness of the game and the multiple ways, it really does remind me a lot of Deus Ex. In a lot of ways, where there's multiple different approaches to take to completing your mission objectives, the stealthy way, the seductive way, the guns blazing way. And it's just a very well-developed game. I mean, I made the joke about the Nosferatu. This is a vampire type that is very ugly, and you can't go out into public without people screaming and running away, and that actually hurts what's called the masquerade, the fact that the vampires don't want people to know that they exist. And if you have too many masquerade violations, the game ends. And so in order to avoid that, you have to travel through the sewer systems, and you basically are a pariah. You can't interact with the social world.
It completely changes the way that the game is played.
Yeah, the game is completely different based on which character class you're playing. And then I decided to play as a Toreador, and which was more of like the seductive style vampire. And I was basically a male hooker. I was just sleeping with everybody and taking everything that I needed. So just the gameplay variety is insane. Now, their vision was far too great for what they were trying to do, and the game was delayed over a year because they ended up getting screwed up because of the release of it was released on Steam's engine on the oh god, now I'm forgetting the damn name of the Steam engine. Source. Thank you. I need to drink more coffee before we do this. It was released on the Source engine, but because Half-Life 2 was delayed for almost a year, they couldn't release it when they wanted to. Now, how buggy that game would have been if they released it when it was supposed to is another story. But it's just, I really think that RPG fans owe it to themselves to try this game out, because you really do see the beginnings of Oblivion, Fallout. You really see the beginnings of that in this game, and it's definitely worth playing.
And it's actually on Steam for I think $20 now, so it shouldn't be too hard if you wanted to check that out as well. You can probably get like a mod pack that interfaces really nicely with that.
John, real quick, can we put that picture in the show notes, the picture that you just sent me?
Yeah,
Can we please put that in the show notes?
That's actually what I was about to talk about, how this game made by Troika had really, really fantastic writing.
Oh, it was awesome.
And we're looking at a screenshot, which is actually not the screenshot I was looking for, but it's similar, where you're playing a Malkavian, which Malkavians are insane. Where it's a stop.
Not silly insane, but just actually nuts.
And there's the screenshot here, which we'll put in the show notes. We'll load it up to RPG Fan because I just found it on some guy's photo bucket account. But it's a picture of a stop sign, and dialogue option 1 is stop, and dialogue option 2 is you've made a powerful enemy today sign. And the one I was looking for is actually where the dialogue option is no, you stop. But
yeah, the writing is tremendous. I hope those Troika guys are working at other places right now, because
here's what I was going to. I was doing research earlier because Leonard Boyarsky, who was art director on the original Fallout and did quest design and story on Fallout 2, and then did all that stuff on Arcanum and Vampire the Masquerade. Do you know what he's doing now, Rob?
What?
He's lead world designer on Diablo 3.
Oh, I love him. I don't want to leave right now. Okay, we'll get there in news. Remind me to talk about it in the news when we talk about Diablo 3. But Yeah, I mean, just the writing in Vampire. I'm actually looking it up on Steam right now. It's $20, and I think $20 is a little ridiculous for a game that you're going to have to patch yourself. But it's definitely worth looking into. It will run on anything now. If you can run Half-Life 2, you can run it. It's just a freaking awesome game. There's little problems here and there. It's buggy as all hell, but it's literally a game unlike any other, and I think it's a masterpiece in its own way that people really should experience. If you like Fallout, if you like open-ended Western-style RPGs, and I've found myself really gravitating toward Western RPGs lately because I really enjoy the freedom. And, I love the freedom in Fallout, being able to wipe a whole town off the map if I want to. I love the freedom of Vampire, doing what I need to do as long as I stay within the confines, the rule set of the game, and I just love the freedom in these games. I really, really do. I don't want to be on a single track. Final Fantasy 13. I just don't like to do the same thing over and over in Final Fantasy.
I mean, actually, like getting back to Temple of Elemental Evil, the kind of polar opposite that when I started thinking about combat systems from the D&D, like very intricate, dice roll based. Also, dice rolls in computer games are really annoying.
Yep.
Like C Alpha Protocol, which is another game that's great.
Okay, no. Here's the thing: there are dice rolls in every game, every Western RPG. There are dice rolls,
but they're weighted in a PC game. I feel like it's weighted better. Like there is a better balance for how often you miss and how likely it is. Like at least in a properly like in Fallout, for example. Like you're more likely to like shoot your. I know that a lot of people get completely upset when, like it says you have 95% chance to shoot, like someone in the head and it misses every time. At the same time, I've found it to be the case that like playing Fallout 3, New Vegas, I can't really speak to. It's more a proper PC RPG is balanced to make it seem like you're, if as long as you're evenly matched up, that you're actually getting somewhere. And like, granted, when you're adhering to Dungeons and Dragons rule set, you have like 7 HP at the start of the game, and so do your enemies, and like a hit does, like 4 damage.
Yeah, it can kill you quickly. So
yeah, so like it's different. I feel like they're built for different reasons.
But getting back to what I was trying to say before,
basically Final Fantasy 13 is the opposite of Temple of Elemental Evil, whereas on the hardcore computer RPG D&D 3.5 side, you have such explicit adherence to the rules and regulations of the game that it almost bogs it down. Final Fantasy 13 seems like it has taken the kind of JRPG side of formula of the battle system too far, of just like letting you basically just as Rob, you like to so often say, press X all the way through. And I mean, granted, that's not exactly the case once you get later in the game, but it does, I think that there's a middle ground that can certainly be found where, I think the Persona games, and I mean the Shin Megami Tensei games in general are a pretty good example where you have a battle system that is bound by a very specific rule set, and in like the SMT games, it's the various weaknesses and countering that you have to take into account. But at the same time, it's not so convoluted and completely just like it's just not built to confuse and just throw the player off. And I feel like that's something that you definitely lose when you're converting, like a pen and paper rule set to a video game setting. So yeah, and I mean, yeah, Dragon Age, as I said before, was another good example of that, of like taking that CRPG formula but applying a more accessible rule set and like making it more gamey, more just playable even. So
are we pretty much done with the pen and paper discussion? I think we can move on to news, unless anybody's got a final point to make. We got to keep the show moving.
I love Troika. I wish that those guys were still together. I know that their games were buggy as hell.
Who's making the Vampire MMO?
Oh, I think it's CCP, South CCP, who does Eve.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think.
Goody. Vampire management.
To be completely fair, I hear Eve has changed significantly. Actually, we were just approached by CCP not too long ago to review their new additions to the game, which supposedly make the game very newbie-friendly. Neither here nor there, but...
1, 2, 3, not it.
It's already been claimed. There's a thread.
Thank God. Okay. So, are we ready for news?
Yeah.
Start with Diablo. Start with Diablo.
Start with Diablo.
Start with Diablo.
News. So at BlizzCon just this past weekend, Diablo 3 they've announced the final class.
Yes.
Demon Hunter.
Which is, a combination of the assassin and rogue from Diablo 2 and Diablo 1. So I have another class that I love. I cannot decide who I'm going to play as. I've got it down to 3.
So wait, Rob, really what does class combination mean in Diablo? Does it mean that you click in a different direction?
Oh, ha, ha, ha. I don't have Steven here to defend me, but no, they... Damn. No, it's really all about the abilities, and I think that's the big thing about Diablo 3. Diablo 2, if you're playing as a barbarian, the game could get really boring because you're just smacking things really hard. But the reason why the Necromancer was my favorite class was because there were so many different things you could do. You could, corpse explosion and set up walls to, pin enemies in. You had all your summonable abilities. And it seems like with Diablo 3, they're really making that an emphasis with the character classes to have everybody do different things. A couple of notes on what they announced at BlizzCon. The Demon Hunter class, she has all these different abilities. One of them is Entangling Shot. So she can actually entangle a group of enemies to slow them down. And then she has a special type of projectile that wraps around the enemy, and it's kind of like a grenade that wraps around him, and then it explodes after a couple of seconds. So they're throwing a lot of tactical elements in the game to, I think, get away from what you're talking about, which is a fair complaint at the Diablo series, which is you click until dead. And then they had the whole rune system in now where you put runes on different abilities. And they said that because of the rune system, they have over 97 billion combinations of abilities in this game. And some that they showed off, like the Witch Doctor has the toad ability where he sends out a couple of poisonous toads, and if you put the fire emblem on him, they turn into fire toads. But one of them is the gold emblem. It makes one giant toad that eats enemies. Another one makes toads fall out of the sky. It's like a rain of toads. This is just.
Isn't that based on some Japanese myth?
It sounds like a biblical reference.
Yeah, I would have said more biblical.
There's the Japanese the myth that they use it. They most recently was used in Naruto where there's the giant toad.
Nerd. So, I'm just thinking about the giant toad from Chrono Trigger. So I think that Diablo 3 looks awesome. The abilities look nuts. I've got it down to 3 character classes. I can't decide between the Witch Doctor, Monk, or Demon Hunter. I got to see more of the Demon Hunter. The footage that they released, and that's what I wanted to talk about. The footage that they released for the Demon Hunter, she did look since they only had a couple abilities in place, it looked a little boring compared to the absolute insanity of the other classes. But then again, she's still coming along. What I wanted to mention was there's an 18-minute video that you can find on either Game Trailers or 1UP. And I watched the whole video, and you see some more of the scripted events. And that's where the writing for Diablo, Diablo not being known for writing, there's one scenario where the Demon Hunter, walked into a room and it was a bunch of ghosts, and they were, reenacting someone being beheaded, like an unfaithful wife or something, and the writing was stellar. It was really creepy. And so I think with Diablo, with these planned events, these random events that are going to take place, you could see a game that has a much stronger narrative and a much stronger creep-out factor. The other thing is that the new environments definitely look a lot darker. I'm not sure if that was the desired way to go after all the fan complaining over the art direction of the game. But the game does look really dark. And, no release date.
Still.
Damn it.
Blizzard, chill out. At least we know that StarCraft 2, whatever the Zerg expansion is going to come out sometime in a year and a half to 2 years. So
I think I'm still saying Diablo 3 has a possibility for next summer. I think it has a possibility for 2011. I'd say second half of 2011. That's my guess. If not, it's going to be the summer of 2012. I see it as a summer release. I do. That's normally when Blizzard likes to. That's when they release StarCraft. That's when they release Diablo 2, Warcraft 3. They're a summer company. So
then why is Cataclysm coming out in December?
it's an expansion pack. It doesn't count, and they could release that thing.
Okay,
they could release that thing. They could release that thing the day before the Earth ended, and people would still buy it. It doesn't matter.
The original World of Warcraft came out in November.
I think that might just be like a World of Warcraft deal because Burning Crusade also was going to come out like November, December, and then got pushed back to January-ish when it did come out. So that might just be to avoid conflicting release windows because they have so many games that come out at the same time.
Well, hey, Blizzard's producing right now. The fact that they're releasing StarCraft 2 and an expansion pack, I looked outside to make sure hell hadn't frozen over. Diablo is out there handing out snow cones.
You live in hell.
I do actually. I almost gave away where I lived, and that probably wouldn't have been a good idea. Never mind.
Isn't it on your staff profile?
No, actually, I need to update that. I'm no longer in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm teaching at a boarding school now. Hint, hint.
Either way, I'll hit up some more of the newses. A couple of quick release ones. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest is now on the Virtual Console. If that is
Final Fantasy for dummies.
More or less.
That's what it was marketed as.
We've got a review up on the site written by our own Dennis Rubenstein, and he gave it a good 75, somewhere in between. Was Mystic Quest the one where it's like kind of Zelda-ish, or am I just mistaken?
Yeah, that's.
So, Rob, I have a question for you. Which is more Final Fantasy for dummies? Is that Mystic Quest or 13?
That's a tough one. I mean, I hate both equally. I wouldn't say Final Fantasy 13 is for dummies. I would say Final Fantasy 13 is for somebody that I've never met. I've never met anyone that wants to press X until the game ends. But then again, I play Diablo, so I do press the left click button a lot. So maybe there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. Also, in the vein of Final Fantasy 13, Square Enix just had put up another couple of job postings.
It's coming for 360.
Yeah, so the interesting part of the job posting is that anyone who applies has to have experience developing for the PS3 and the Xbox 360. And so this is for, versus 13. I don't know if it's exactly for that, but it's for battle planning and level designers with 3D experience. So we'll see what happens.
So basically, Final Fantasy Versus 13 is a long way off.
Yep. It may or may not have a battle system at this point.
Jeez. Are we?
One day.
John, do you have something to say? Because I'm just going to complain about Square some more. So do you have something?
No, I just put Ceiling Cat into Scribblenauts because I think it's funny.
No, Square Enix, dang it. I don't know what they're doing anymore. I really don't. All the fiasco over Final Fantasy 14, which is, just a complete train wreck. And they obviously just.
I'm going to cut you off. Do you know what Square Enix is doing right now? They're doing Deus Ex Human Revolution. Bam, podcast over.
That's Eidos. So what if they own them? That's not them.
Yeah, no, it's Square Enix now.
But that's not them.
Yeah,
okay, it's just like Arkham Asylum is technically not theirs. Okay.
Well, Arkham Asylum is not a Eidos-owned property. It's a Warner Brothers owned property, and it's not developed in house at Eidos anyway. It was developed by Rocksteady, who developed the best game in the world, which was Urban Chaos Riot Response.
I'm so excited for the new Arkham. I'm just throwing that out there. I am so excited for the next Batman game. So good. Why don't we cover that? It's very much a Zelda clone. Why can't we cover it?
Okay. Look, people yelled at us enough because we do Zelda.
I am complaining now. I wanted to do Okami. I wanted to do Arkham.
Okay, now you're fired.
Oh, for God's sake.
We're not having this argument. We already get yelled at enough for covering games that people don't think are RPGs.
I know, and I wanted to cover Dawn of War 2, which I still need to play, dang it.
You know what? Here's the thing. I give Rob crap for the Dawn of War 2 thing. I actually argued that before you were on the staff.
Yes! Epic win. So, ha. That's okay. As long as I get to do the review of Diablo 3, I will fight Steven for that. I will literally commit murder. I will write that review. I don't even care if I'm not working for the site anymore. I'm writing it. I'm writing it. It's mine. It's all mine.
So yeah, more news. Parasite Eve, those games that I was playing a while ago, is coming to PSN. So that,
be more specific.
What?
Did they announce it for US? I thought it was just announced in Japan.
Maybe our newsman should have known.
Maybe I should have. I'm pretty sure.
According to Liz's news story, it does have a North American release window.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Now, is Parasite Eve 2 worth playing? I never played 2, and I almost finished 1, but I got a little annoyed with it. Is 2 worth playing?
I never got around to it.
It's more action-y. Like, it feels more like Resident Evil than...
I'm okay with that. I love Resident Evil 2.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you've gone back and played one of the old-school turn, go forward Resident Evils.
I play Resident Evil 2 through once a year, and I still love it. I mean, it's barely playable at this point, but I still love Resident Evil 2. And I love the GameCube remake of Resident Evil. I think that's probably the second scariest game I've ever played. So that's your Halloween. If we don't have another podcast between now and Halloween, if you want a really scary game, the Resident Evil remake, those Crimson Heads, oh my god. When one of them stood up, when the first one stood up in the hallway, I literally just paused the game and I was like, that's not fair.
I do wish that if we don't do another podcast between now and Halloween, I wish I'd played some Costume Quest.
Oh, that would have been good. Dang. Number one scariest game for Halloween though. Go play Silent Hill 2. Oh my god.
No, that scariest game is House of the Dead Overkill.
Oh boy. Okay, moving on. Other news?
Yes. Other news. Oath of Felghana, the wise Oath of Felghana.
Jeez.
I know.
Wise.
It's coming November. Sometime in November.
I think it's November 9th because we're talking about the copy that's sorry. No, it's November 2nd. I'm sorry. November 9th is another game. That's Knights of the Nightmare. No, November 2nd for Ys Oath and Felghana, which before our reviewable copy made its way to New Jersey to be reviewed, I had a chance to play it. It's good.
Cool.
So that's going to come in 2 editions. There's a standard edition, which is $30 ish, and limited collector's edition, which has a 4x6 desktop calendar and a music CD. So if you wanna check that out, it's being published by Xseed. So, and we have an interview with one of Xseed's localization specialists on the site.
Yes.
So definitely check that out if you want to see a little bit more about what has gone into that game.
Which, here's something that our readers and probably most of our staff don't know. Tom Lipschultz, who we happened to interview, I met him for the first time at E3. He actually has written several reader reviews for RPG Fan when we accepted reader reviews. I'm not going to give away his name I don't know if he wants it known on our podcast or not, but he's an awesome guy, and his localization is top-notch.
Cool. So.
And then the final news story for the day, and something of a crazy one, I might say, is Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney.
This sounds epically awesome.
Now, here's the thing. Even though it's level 5, my expectations are way down in the dirt because unlike most of the people in North America, I played Namco Cross Capcom, and it was awful.
See, I keep going into no, hold on a second. I keep going into EB, and they always have. It's not Phoenix Wright. It's the DS. Is it Phoenix Wright? It's the DS one.
There's 3 of them. There's 3 Phoenix Wright games in Apollo Justice, and then Miles Edgeworth.
Okay, I think this is the DS game that just came out recently. I think Kim did the review. I think
that's Miles Edgeworth.
Okay,
Ace Attorney Investigations.
I really want to play one of these games. Should I go pick that up? I really want to try it out.
No, I would actually not play Ace Attorney Investigations until you've played at least the first 3 Phoenix Wright games.
But are those on
Definitely.
DS? Because I
Yeah,
can't.
they're all on DS.
Where the hell do I go to pick one of those up?
Amazon, probably GameStop.com.
Okay.
They're I think they're a bit harder to find these days. But if you have a Wii, they released. I don't know if they've gotten around to all three of them, but for I think about somewhere in the realm of $10 a piece, they released the first three with updated. I don't know if the controls were tremendously updated, but yeah, on the Wii.
Which, unfortunately for the Wii, takes away the option for you to yell objection at the screen.
Okay, so what do we have here? Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All, and Trials and Tribulations. Okay, so I have to play all of those, apparently.
Yeah, play all of those. Apollo Justice is optional. Edgeworth actually takes place before Apollo Justice in the timeline.
See, I just want to play one of them. Like, and I'm looking at these prices, and it's ridiculous. Like, they want. Like,
if you've got a Wii, just grab it on.
I don't have a Wii. I like video games, not crap. Oh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just giving crap. Wii is perfectly fine, but there's not a lot of games I want to play on it. So
maybe I'll send you my copy or something. We'll see what happens.
That would be nice. Well, I finished up Castlevania, so I'm looking in between all the Fallout. Oh, on a side note with Castlevania, I really want to see somebody talk about the ending at some point, because the ending is a giant WTF, and I'm sure people are pissed off. Oh my god, the ending is nuts. I'll just leave it at that.
Why do we always end up talking about like not RPGs for the last 20 minutes of our podcast?
We've been talking about news. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
What?
Anyways, Professor Layton, Ace Attorney, 3DS. That's going to be interesting, especially since it's level 5s and their art is always so pretty. So very pretty.
Yeah, we'll see how the Nintendo 3DS does with that $300 price tag in America.
They haven't announced it yet.
They haven't announced a US. I guarantee
it's going to be above $250. It's going to be $250 or above.
It's going to be the price point is going to be $250. I guarantee you that. And you know what? That's the price that the PSP launched at. And here's the thing: it's not expected that little Jimmy is going to necessarily get a DS on day one. Give it by year 3 when it's going to be the price of $150. And there'll be a million bajillion kids who can't see anymore because their game handle's in 3D.
No, that's true. I went to see Jackass in 3D, and that just proved to me that this 3D thing really needs to end. So I think it'll do fine, but I just think the price point is ridiculous, and that's not a good move for Nintendo. But then again, Nintendo can just do whatever they want these days.
You know, honestly, price point doesn't bother me anymore. I realized when I bought the $100 Civ 5 Collector's Edition that I'll just buy whatever that game companies said.
You are what's wrong with America.
Well, I suppose that my situation is a little bit different, considering that I can play whatever I want for free, because 90% of RPG Fans reviewables end up at my house at some point.
Yeah, I was so happy to get my copy of Fallout New Vegas. Oh, wait. Thanks,
hey, I tried. I tried.
Thanks, Bethesda. Thank you so much.
Nah, hey, but they sent us a free copy of the game, just not for the platform you wanted it for.
Yeah, can we make sure that if I do the Dragon Age review, I get that?
We'll take a look. We're pretty good in with the guys at BioWare.
Yeah. I would actually like to interview them and talk about this whole Dragon Age 2 thing. Open invitation to anybody from BioWare who wants to come on and talk. I mean, again, won't be confrontational. I can't admit that. I would love to have some developers on the show to talk.
Well, here's the thing. We'll talk about this when we're not on recording, but we'll work some stuff out. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. I think the fans might actually like that. So is that it for the news? We'll
yeah, I mean, that's about that. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
Oh, but one thing that I have to say to our readers: please continue to buy the stuff that came out from Working Designs on PlayStation Network. I would like to see other stuff come out that I actually like.
Well, so Electra and Arthalad.
Yeah, those are the ones that you got to pick up. So.
Right now.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Again, make sure you download our podcast on iTunes. We love to see the reviews. We want to get the iTunes numbers at some point to see if anybody is downloading this besides us and our mothers. So, just want to make sure that you guys enjoy the show. Feel free to give us suggestions on the boards. Definitely take those into consideration. We want to get our 4th chair back in here at some point, but that whole what is it, 12,000 mile difference and that 12-hour time difference is kind of difficult to get Steven on here, and he sacrificed his lungs to be on the show one week, and we're going to try to get him in here again at some point.
And Gary?
Gary? Gary.
Gary.
Gary. Gary.
Gary.
Gary. It's so creepy. I thought the game was glitching. I thought Fallout 3 was glitching when that was going on, and I was like, oh no, they're just trying to creep me out. Okay.
Gary.
Thank you very much for listening, everybody. For myself, for John, and Zach, we will talk to you all later.
I want the last word. And Gary.